This episode is sponsored by Victory Grips. Victory Grips are the standard in hand protection, plus they just launched their new gym affiliate program. As affiliate owners, they understand the demands of gym owners. Their goal is to keep their gym referral program process as simple as possible. You'll receive educational content, early access to upcoming releases, and exclusive discounts for your members, plus received a percentage of the net sales. Find out more at victorygrips.com. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world of fitness about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Mike Cerbus, and on today's episode, we have another movement-specific podcast, this one coming from the weightlifting world. We are going to be discussing the squat jerk versus the split jerk, and our co-host today is going to be none other than Olympic superstar Cheryl Haworth, three-time Olympian and Olympic bronze medalist, and also a Power Monkey Camp coach. We love her. She is amazing. She knows the sport inside and out. And her and Mike are going to be going after the squat jerk versus split jerk, talking about pros and cons, which one might be right for you as maybe an aspiring weightlifter, but also maybe just a functional fitness enthusiast, which one you might want to use in a workout as opposed to for training purposes. This one's a great one, especially if you're looking to get a little bit more insight into the weightlifting world. Enjoy. All right, everybody, here with another movement podcast today. I'm going to let the weightlifters do the talking today. Cheryl, welcome. We always love seeing you, and Happy New Year to you. Welcome back to the podcast. How you feeling?
I'm feeling wonderful. Happy New Year, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to see your faces, especially not at Power Monkey Camp. Just a really great excuse to exchange words, and I hope you're all doing well. You look great.
Oh, thank you. Same to you. And I think it just means that we need to see each other more than just the 2 weeks at a Power Monkey Camp and be able to connect and see what's going on in each other's lives. But with Michael, I do have a question for you, Mike. You know, it's the start of the new year, and your absurd challenge from 2023 has just come to a close, I believe. I actually think that it's either today is the last day of it officially or within the last couple of days of your squat every day for an entire year. And I'm curious if it is indeed concluded and what you learned about yourself over the course of the year, Mike.
Great question. This doesn't go against my time, does it, for our talk today, right?
No.
All right. Yeah, I actually have two more days to get to the 365 because I did start it a little bit late last year into the year. And I've tried to be very honest with everybody and say it's really not that unique or crazy or impressive from a weightlifter standpoint. And Cheryl can attest to this. Like, the amount of squatting that we were doing when we were training was so absurd that this year it was, or this past year when I did it, it was more to hold myself accountable to do some extra mobility. So I noticed the last few years I was just squatting relatively higher weights or higher volume, but more randomly, and not spending much time warming up and stretching and cooling down. And even though I'm still one of the younger monkeys, I am not younger in weightlifter years. And I thought this would be a good kind of self accountability to have to post something. And that's where it went. So the main thing that I learned was just that, yeah, like anything, if you hold yourself accountable, you'll probably do more. And in the age of social media, easy way to do it was say that I was going to do it and then have to post. So I will be having the final 20 squat videos in one quick snippet to save everybody any pain or suffering of having to watch any more of those.
Well, congratulations, Mike. A full year of doing anything every day is a challenge, and we applaud you for staying with it and only getting a few taken down from Instagram because you being butt naked squatting, which is always an interesting way to show the world your quads. Favorite post?
My favorite post?
Yeah. Is there one that kind of stood out to you that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think probably everybody.
There's an obvious one, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, there's an obvious one for me. And Dave, I think you can relate being post professional career. And
I hate it. No, I don't want it as a career. I can't say.
Well, no, I don't want that. But you can kind of miss the opportunities to train for a PR. And that was always something fun in weightlifting, even if it wasn't, 1 rep max snatch or 1 rep max clean. Like, Cheryl, you were probably like this. You start to make up complexes to get a PR when you're feeling a little bit like in a rut.
I mean, definitely you start ticking things in your column that like you wouldn't normally. We're like, well, that's
yeah,
technically a PR. Hell yeah, I had a good
I've
day.
never
Yeah, for sure.
snatched that for 3 reps with a 3-second pause, 2 inches off the
100%.
floor. Like there were so many things like that, and it was cool this past year to do the like technically I guess 3 PRs in my overhead Cossack or lateral squat, as I was called out by some people, because on one of them my foot rotated differently than what the interwebs call
Gotta love the trolls.
versus a lateral squat. But I had my arms overhead. I went into a side lateral lunge squat Cossack variation, and yeah, 100 kilos, 105 kilos, and then 115 kilos were all technically PRs because I had never done them before.
Still one of the most amazing things that was 242 in pounds, Mike. Was that the max?
No, actually, I got the 115, so it was 253.
Wow.
Amazing.
Still
Did you
absurd.
record that, Mike? Because you never sent that over.
Oh, then I have to look. Yeah.
Please do. We have to
Okay.
update
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
Instagram.
If so, then I'll have to rest up a little bit and hit it one more time this year just to have it validated.
Well, again, congrats,
Make it
Mike.
official.
Awesome stuff. Cool to see you're able to kind of stay with that. No, but let's get into the conversation today. We only have a certain amount of time with the lovely Cheryl. We want to make sure that we're using it wisely. Today is a conversation around movement and a friendly debate around two variations of a movement that are, seen within the weightlifting world, the squat jerk versus a split jerk. And we're going to let Mike and Cheryl battle it out as to which is the recommended route to go for the average weightlifter out there and pros and cons between the two. So, Mike, I'll let you start with regards to how you want to jump at this.
Yeah, thank you. I will give everybody that's listening a little preview. So Cheryl and I are both going to have a little bit of time to talk about why we prefer certain ways to jerk. And I could definitely go into a big, let's say, history of the squat jerk, because that's going to be my stance in this debate, is that I am a big fan and proponent of the squat jerk. And I want to do a little test here just for mine and Cheryl's history of weightlifting. Let's say history of American weightlifting. Cheryl, on the count of 3, say the name of your favorite American squat jerker on the count of 3. Are you ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3.
Kara Slaughter.
Yes.
I said her name so fast, just in case we got points for saying it fast. I got in there.
So yeah, so a lot of times
I love that it's the same too. She's great.
I knew it was going to be because yeah, she was an inspiration for me as well, and for way more than just squat jerking. But I'm gonna give like 2 minutes here of just some squat jerk background for all the listeners, and then I'm gonna start off with my 5-minute clock of why I think people should be practicing the squat jerk. So if everybody's ready, so we'll go just 2 minutes to get some history, and we could definitely go way more into it. But if you're a weightlifting fan, you would know that in like the, let's say, earliest years of weightlifting, so barbell weightlifting, snatch, clean and jerk, both lifts were performed split snatch, split clean, and then split jerk. And over time, the snatch and the clean evolved into a squat variation. Lifters just realized that they had the ability to get under heavier weight a little bit faster in a more balanced position. So I can't actually find when the first squat jerker was. A lot of people will put like on an international level. There's a Chinese weightlifter in the early 90s. I don't think he was the first one by any means. I think there were a few in the 80s, and I would love if anybody's listening and knows this, some of our history buffs.
Excellent question.
Yeah, I dug for a while, Cheryl, and I found a lot of good
I believe you.
squat
Yeah.
jerkers. And Kara actually being up there with some of the first ones to really do it, being a female American. And I think a lot of people listening would not realize that one of the better squat jerkers in the world to date was Kara Slaughter. And she was, I think, her best squat jerk, and you can correct me on this one, Cheryl, like 122 to 127 kilos at about 75 kilos.
I think it was more than that, actually. I think she hit her heaviest at the Olympic Training Center, and it was 130 plus. I would actually have to ask her. But yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Good.
just so like I like to give some credit where a lot of people will attribute the squat jerk to just being specific to Chinese weightlifters. And while Chinese weightlifters have definitely perfected that movement and made it, let's say, more famous, there's been a handful of weightlifters from the US. Kendrick Ferris is known for his own version of the, let's say, splot jerk or splat jerk. Then Clarence Cummings has been known to do some squat jerking. We had Kara, we had one of your buddies, Anthony Martin, was known for some good squat jerks. And then we've had a ton of Armenian, Ukrainian, and other Asian countries that have been at the world and Olympic level doing squat jerks. So it's a movement that has been into different training forms throughout the years. But as CrossFit got more popular and people started to watch weightlifting more and more, it's come up more in the discussion within our community. And this is why we are going to have our debate of squat jerk versus split jerk. So if you're ready to go, I will open us up, Cheryl.
Yeah, please. This is so far. I'm intrigued. I've already learned a few things, so let's
All right,
roll.
yeah.
I'm excited.
And we can have fact checkers. They can call me out on anything once we get going here.
Same
I
here.
sometimes make some things up. All right, Dave, are you ready to start my 5-minute clock?
Ready to go.
All right. So the first thing that I want to start off with is I was a split jerker pretty much my entire career. My absolute best jerk was a split jerk. It was 182 kilos. And as I got older in my weightlifting career and had a few little bumps and bruises, the split jerk started to bother me. And I realized it had to do with a lot of technical deficiencies. And this is, again, like, personal experience. I don't even remember if anybody recommended it or it was just a curiosity, but I decided to start training some close grip overhead squats, some squat jerks. They turned into combinations where I would do squat jerk plus split jerk. And ironically, prior to that split jerk PR of 182, I had a PR of like 165. And as soon as I started to add in those squat jerks and overhead squats with a close grip was when I PR'd my jerk. So for me as an individual athlete, it was just a little bit illuminating of, all right, this, for me, it worked. So I'm going to try it. And as a coach, when I started to transition, I just started to play around with it in programming. I would give all of my athletes close grip overhead squats. If they couldn't do them, we would start to work on mobility to be able to do them. And then we would do the complexes, squat jerk or deep power jerks and split jerks. And I just noticed a big improvement. So like simplest reason for me of why somebody should at least train a squat jerk is that even if you're going to be a split jerker, the squat jerk will train a range of motion that will benefit your split jerk. So the vertical dip and drive, the vertical push under, and the increased range of motion that you get in a balanced position like a squat jerk is really important to me. And then that can be leveled up to where, yeah, okay, maybe you don't have the mobility or you don't have the core stability and excess leg strength to do full squat jerks at heavy weights, but you can use it as a nice warm up. Think of it almost as like a deficit where you're like increasing the range beyond what you need. And then you can come up and do a power jerk, a push jerk. And then if you're sport specific and you're wanting to do a split jerk, that's when you can transition to split jerk. So my main point, I guess, is that I think the squat jerk is like an ultimate expression of shoulder to overhead and will transfer to everything else you want to do. And then from there, I think that maybe it's a bias of just seeing so many bad split jerks, mine included. The split jerk is such a specific skill that athletes don't train precise enough to get good at. So they just do it very ugly and they compensate. So it's like a mixture of I want one thing that improves another, and I also want to eliminate bad movements. And I see a lot of bad split jerks. Like if somebody can't do a squat jerk, they just can't do it. So they don't do a bad one, in my opinion. So Dave, I think I stayed under 5 minutes. I hope.
You're at 3-minute mark right now, so you have a little bit of time.
So I'm gonna bank my time there. So Cheryl, those are my two things. I think squat jerk helps split jerk, and I think too many people split jerk bad.
Well, I think I'm going to start out by disappointing everybody and agreeing with almost everything you said in this context. Now, I do reserve some, mild disagreement, but it really depends on what somebody's talking about, right? So first, where we agree, like I give my athletes routinely narrow grip overhead squat holds. I agree 100% that it helps athletes overhead in the split jerk in particular, because one has to be thoughtful about their shoulder position. They need to be thoughtful and more forceful with their lockout in that position, because it will soften if they don't have the mobility to do so. And I would assume that because you lacked the proper mobility, that you got that benefit as soon as you started adding that in.
Definitely.
Now, where we would disagree is where, well, again, maybe it's not a disagreement. It just comes down to what an athlete's goals are for me. And I'm really glad that you mentioned Kara Head Slaughter. I mean, we both mentioned it at the same time. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. But she was my training partner for 4 years. So we trained on the same platform using the same barbell for 4 years leading to the Olympics. And she is one of the best squat jerkers that I've ever seen. That being said, I also watch her struggle daily and be in the depths of misery because she could not make jerks when she needed to. The year prior to the Olympics in 1999, the most important Olympic year in the quad, because at the time we had to, as a team, qualify as a team to get slots. Yep. So if we didn't do well as a team at the World Championships the year prior to the Olympics, fewer of us went to the Olympics. That year, and it wasn't at the World Championships, but I watched her bomb out at the Pan Am. Well, what was it? It was three major events. It was the Nationals, it was the Pan Am Games, I think, and it was the American Open, 3 competitions that she needed to do well at, and she bombed out trying to squat jerk. She could out clean her jerks significantly. And I want everybody who does, take a look at the squat jerk recreationally online, notice how much easier it is for a squat jerker to clean. They're typically blowing away their cleans and then struggling with the jerk. So by that, what I mean is if you're competing or planning on competing at your maximal levels and you're trying to get medals, competition matters to you. You have competitors that you're familiar with, and you're starting out and this is the trajectory you're on. I want to compete in Olympic weightlifting. I would advise you strongly to dedicate at least 4 to 5 years of your career initially going out of your way, trying to figure out how to split jerk for a variety of reasons. So I was a split jerker. Obviously, you said you were a split jerker. It is the most common, form. Most world records are broken using the split jerk. In Chinese weightlifting, they actually teach everybody the split jerk. It's only the people who can't figure it out after intense, technique work. If they can't do it, then they do the squat jerk. And typically those people also can squat in excess of what they need to. So in other words, you must be prepared to squat with your very best clean multiple times or be able to do that. And in weightlifting at that level, efficiency matters. So to me, if you can do a triple clean and then maybe eke out 1 squat jerk, you're not being efficient. I think the goal is, after years of lifting weights, you should be able to outpace your clean with your split jerk by a couple of kilos if you are efficient. And a couple of reasons for that is I don't have to use the same range of motion. I just looked at the one of the videos I have on Instagram. Dave, what's my time? Do you know my time?
You're
She can have
just about at 5
3
minutes. You have
Just
1 minute.
about. Okay, just real quick. Just good old-fashioned time under tension. I looked at the video of me jerking 161, and you might be able to bust out 2 air squats in the time it takes me to initiate the dip, split, and get my feet back together. A squat jerk takes ages longer than that, and you got to squat twice with your heaviest clean. All right, I'll wrap it up.
No,
But we
love it.
agree on a lot. We agree on a
Yeah,
lot. It's a great movement.
So one of my inspirations for these types of conversations, and I want to have more of them on our gymnastics side, on our weightlifting side, and even our other disciplines where there's, like you said, Cheryl, at the beginning, like let's, myth busters, like let's bust some myths. There's a podcast that I like to listen to called Open for Debate. And it's to encourage discussions about, let's say, hot topics or where people think there is disagreement or argument. And so many times there's more agreement than disagreement. And I think it's no different in gymnastics, weightlifting, CrossFit, functional fitness. Like so many people think that they disagree or think that they're teaching a million different things. And there's actually a lot of overlap. So the discussions are
For sure.
important. And I wouldn't even say what I'm going to have now as a rebuttal, but more a meshing of like what I said and what I think you said, and then hopefully once I'm done, and then you get a chance to go, is that we can offer the listeners, our general Power Monkey community that's listening here, how to implement some of the if we dare call it wisdom that we're offering here. So yeah, I think you nailed it on the head when you said that the amount of time it took you to do a split jerk is so efficient. So the time under tension is small, the wear on the body is small, the room for error is actually quite large, but the room for success is also quite large. And in a squat jerk, yeah, it takes a lot of time. It's a ton of time under tension. It's a lot of stress on range of motion. So if you're looking at the most world records, the amount of efficiency of lifts, like split jerk is going to be your most efficient for success. I wouldn't say most efficient for how far the bar is moving. We could get into that in a scientific debate another time where I bring somebody on a lot smarter than me. But yeah, the split jerk, I think in a competitive sense or a max potential for most people, the split jerk is going to win. But where I would like to caution our listeners is that if you're going to max out a jerk or max out a clean and jerk, and I say this all the time in our weekend courses, if you do more jerks throughout the year in a push jerk or power jerk variation, because most of the time you're in a CrossFit workout and you're cycling reps, or you don't split jerk until it gets heavy because then it allows you to lunge under the weight a little bit. If you're accumulating most of your jerks in a power jerk or a push jerk variation, do not max out in a split jerk. So Cheryl said that she would recommend when you're starting your odyssey of weightlifting, no matter if you're going to be sport specific or you're looking to, do other things with the movement, it's going to take you 4 to 5 years of like dedicated skill training to be balanced and safe and stacked and efficient in your split jerk positions. And I have a whole other debate that I want to get into on the split jerk, and we're going to bring you back on for another one. It'll go down a rabbit hole.
Love it.
So just a teaser for everybody. We're going to get into some actual split jerk debates in the next talk like this. But my recommendation for everybody is going to be, at the simplest form, start training more push press to close grip overhead squat. If you can't do that, then that's a low-hanging fruit for you to practice. Go behind the neck, widen your grip out a little bit until you can find it to be a comfortable position to overhead squat. Once you feel comfortable, start to bring your grip in more. If you're doing a jerk, you should be able to overhead squat it with the same grip. If you can't, then you're lacking the mobility to be safe, one. So at some point, you're going to compensate and promote some type of overuse or injury. And then two, you're going to limit your potential. You're just not going to be able to move as much weight. So like the ability to train a squat jerk, and when I say squat jerk, I'm really just saying like glorified, like close grip overhead squat. At the highest demonstration of it, it's a squat jerk, but you need to be able to do that as a movement. It's no different than saying, like, if you can't hang from a bar with relaxed shoulders, you probably shouldn't be doing pull-ups. Like, you need to learn how to hang appropriately before you can pull yourself. You need to be able to overhead squat before you can jerk. That's my encouragement for everybody there. And then from there, if you want to start to maximize your potential and work on split jerks, find a good coach. And there's plenty in your gym, I'm sure, if you ask them, that will work on you with the appropriate drills to drill your split jerk position, not just try to lift heavy weight overhead. So you need to understand what that position is, and you need to be comfortable with it before you're testing it at heavy weights. Because I hope over the course of this year, as we get into more movement discussions, it's reinforced over and over again. The snatch and the clean and jerk are tests. They're tests of how well you move in that skill. So there's a lot of practice and training and drills that go into being able to test. Like, you have to earn your test. And that's where I will finish my part, Cheryl, and I'll let you close us up.
Yeah, and I sorry, Dave, what was that?
Right on 5 minutes. Mike is
Nice.
playing with that one, so nice job. Go for it, Cheryl.
Excellent work. Yeah, again, we agree, and I do want to reiterate what you said, Mike, about at the very least, people who take the time to listen to this will at least kind of put themselves into one category or the other. Well, what are my fitness needs? What are my goals? And maybe make it a little bit less of a mystery. And I also agree with you that people split jerk badly. Vanessa McCoy and I teach the split jerk station at Power Monkey Camp. We were both really good. And I'm going to go ahead and throw out my stat because I enjoy it. I have never bombed out at a weightlifting competition, meaning I've always made a snatch, and I've always made a clean and jerk, and I've only missed one jerk accidentally, competitively, ever. So I will die being in love with the split jerk because it's just done so much for me, right? It's locked Olympic medals in for me. So I can't hate on it. But what the whole point is I'm a competitive weightlifter, right? My goal was to lift as much as possible, and I will throw out there my own development. I don't think I ever cleaned within 20 kilos of as much weight as I could have. So maybe more development later in those years, I would have seen, I don't know, maybe a couple more misses in the jerk, but I did jerk about 10 kilos more than I could clean. So I had some cushion there. And I just want to throw out there one of the reasons why, if you are intending on jerking heavy, and reps do matter, like Mike said, if you're doing lots of push presses and things like that and cycling the barbell and CrossFit, then the split's going to be really weird because chances are you're dipping and driving incorrectly for all of those movements. I don't think I've ever been in a CrossFit gym and seen the majority of people not just bowing over and hinging every single time that they're doing a push press. And that's a lot of reps in the absolute incorrect position in order to lift anything heavy. The dip and the drive, you need to stay stacked, shoulders on top of hips. In the squat jerk, the issue becomes at very, very heavy weight, your hips shift out from under the bar. And in the split jerk, that doesn't happen if you're doing a proper split jerk. Your shoulders stay on top of your hips. And I don't bow, I don't get pulled forward if I'm doing it correctly. And I never have been because I did them correctly. And it's a combination of people not really understanding fully the mechanics of properly jerking, split jerking, combined with the fact that they have other priorities and they don't realize there are other priorities and like what's really happening. Even in the weightlifting world, there's a lot of disagreement about squat jerks and split jerks. So very basically, mechanically, I can do jerk recoveries out of the rack until I basically blow out my back because the movement is, I'm not even getting beyond power position with my knees. It's even in my full split at the heaviest weight, I'm not even at a quarter squat. That's why I can immediately recover from my split jerk and I'm not lingering, or none of that stuff is happening. I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there, which is classic Cheryl Haworth, but mechanically that's why it works a little bit better, but understanding the difference. And I will caution those people who right now, because there are some workouts in CrossFit, stop me if I'm wrong, that include lifting heavy, clean and jerks, right? The only time it really bugs me is when I see a young, competitive Olympic weightlifter, somebody who's like all in. I got the shoes, I got the lifting suit, I got everything. I can't wait to sign up for every single meet. And because of who they follow on Instagram, they're just squat jerking. And it reminds me, and 100%, this is not a lie, it reminds me of this scene on The Simpsons, one of the older episodes where they're like at a fair or something, and Homer's shirt is deep fried. And he's like, look, Marge, I told you they could deep fry my shirt. And she's like, Homer, I didn't say they couldn't. I said you shouldn't. So there's a difference between can and should. Just because you can do a squat jerk at a meet and everybody goes, ooh, that looks nice. I think what is sexier is winning that championship by out jerking your competitor. So that's probably been 5 minutes. But it really does remind me of that quote. I'm like, you can deep fry your shirt, but you probably shouldn't deep fry your shirt.
I hope that, Jordan, you have this very, very much zoned in while Cheryl is saying this on your and Dave's face, because the fact
we have to pull that clip up from somewhere.
Dave lives in the land of the Simpsons now. So
that was my favorite part. And I was losing control because I was watching Dave laugh and he was trying not to laugh, which made me.
Do you remember the episode? I think it's the Guatemalan insanity pepper where like he eats these peppers and he loses it, and like, who is it? Johnny Cash plays this talking fox. And he goes on this spiritual journey. Anyway, could and should, two different things.
I'm sure you did so many good things there, and maybe the best was the Simpsons reference. That also just made my day. But the moral of the story overall of everything is have an intention, like have an intent to why you're doing anything. All right. Yes. So if you're going to squat jerk, why are you squat jerking? What's the purpose of it? What are you doing to prepare yourself for that? The same thing. If you're going to split jerk when you max out, you're going to split jerk at all. Why? Number one, why do you even want to max out? And have you prepared yourself to do that? And these are some of the things that I think we want to continue to talk about on more and more of our podcasts, are kind of the whys behind the methods and the movements and the skills, and then connect those to more of the content that we're looking to put out this year as a Power Monkey community, of just continuing to be a resource for all of you that are listening, of how to get better at things and why are you doing them? And if you're not doing very good at it, what can you do to get better? So as you're listening to this podcast, if you guys have questions, please send them to our Instagram, send them to Dave at powermonkeyfitness.com, send them to Mike at powermonkeyfitness.com. If they're for Cheryl, I will be her personal assistant. Send them to me, CC.
Oh, I love it. I will turn you into my personal assistant.
On Cheryl, I will summarize them and send them to her. But we really, really do want to be that resource for you all. And I definitely have a couple more episodes that I want to get into the split jerk on, some like common do's and don'ts that I see.
Nitty gritty. Let's split that hair.
Yeah. So if you're all interested in hearing that, please give us some positive feedback. That way we know this is an interesting episode for you, an interesting form of discussion, and we will continue to come out with these. But with that, our so-called debate, I think, for today is over. And to be honest, I'm going to ask Dave and Jordan who won the debate, but I already feel like I know who did. So if you guys had to vote for a winner, and who convinced you the most, if you're going to go.
The Olympics are tomorrow. Your competitor snatches and clean and jerks. What you do? Are you squat jerking or are you split jerking?
I'm split jerking.
I'm split jerking too.
And Cheryl made some very valid points when it comes to competitive side of things. However, from a training standpoint, I can absolutely see where the value is from what you were talking about, Mike, using it as a training tool. And also just a quick question. I mean, as someone who has learned weightlifting from you guys and the rest of the Power Monkey weightlifting team and, uses it in CrossFit workouts and those types of settings, there really is almost never situations where I need to split jerk. I mean, the reality is that most workouts just don't require it. Very rarely am I coming across a max lift in a workout type situation, or if I'm using it as part of my strength training, whatever it might be. So most of my exposure to the jerk is more of a power jerk than it is even a squat jerk. And so for an everyday lifter like myself, I'm fortunate to have good overhead mobility for my gymnastics training and things like that. So the position is relatively advantageous for me compared to maybe someone else that isn't so great overhead. But I never really exposed myself to split jerk correctly. And this, like, coming to your point, Cheryl, about 4 and 5 years of training it with intention before you can actually utilize it properly. Do you guys each think that an everyday CrossFitter has the necessity to really train it if they're not going on to compete? I mean, in that type of a setting, where's the real value for them? Is it going to be more valuable for them to spend the time getting more proficient with overhead position, doing more power positions and things like that, than it is to actually spend the time on a split jerk if they're not going to really use it very much?
Cheryl, I'm gonna let you go first because I have a
Sure.
really strong opinion on this, and there were probably some people that went to my courses for like a period of a year that had to listen to me rant. So I'll let you start.
Well, I mean, probably not, practically speaking, because we have a limited amount of time. We have our own, programming and all the things we need to get in, the recovery and everything else. And if you're a competitive CrossFitter and you're never seeing the split jerk, it really, I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me that you would take too much time at all, unless you're just generally curious. Because what does happen, what I do find happens sometimes, are that people who do practice the Olympic weightlifting within CrossFit eventually do become curious. They eventually do become curious what they can clean and jerk. And they get very, very, very frustrated by the fact that they can clean 40 kilos more than they can jerk. Now, all these things, come into play. Proper mobility. Is somebody even teaching you the squat? How are you dipping during all those movements that you're doing? All the things come into play. But yeah, and I think that's part of where this debate sort of takes legs or grows legs, is that people are forgetting, like you said, Dave, that there's not a lot of the split in CrossFit, and it almost exists exclusively in heavy Olympic weightlifting, and don't get the two sort of, and they do cross over sometimes. So in short, I don't see the need. I'm not getting mad at a CrossFitter who's not training the split jerk.
Yeah, I'll affirm what Cheryl says, and that's like a PSA that I give all the coaches and participants at our courses. I'll say we're going to go over split positions and the split jerk because it's a part of the sport. It's a skill. It's something that I want everybody to understand. But if you're not willing to train it multiple times per week, at least in a training cycle, then as a coach and a gym owner, do not allow people to go heavy in it. Yeah, maybe you have that one person that trains and practices on their own and they show proficiency. That's
Right.
different. But if, all year long, you're just doing power jerks and push jerks and cycling reps and doing push presses, and then all of a sudden the main site workout says max clean and jerk, and, Ted from the 4 p.m. class has really bad shoulder mobility and he can't actually power jerk very much. So he just does a split jerk and then wrecks his lower back because he lunges into it. Like that's poor programming, poor coaching, poor execution, and expectation. So again, from my thing, it comes down to expectations. If you want to go heavy in the split jerk, you just have to train it. And if you want to be, an everyday gym goer, functional fitness person, CrossFit person, you don't really need to do it. Get a really strong, capable push press, overhead squat, power jerk, you'll be fine. And it's a heck of a lot
Yeah, and
less,
push press correctly.
yeah, push press. There's so many other things to work on than, throwing in this like crazy, which foot do I jump forward and back and all these different things. And that's going to be where we go in the next episode, where we talk about the split jerk. So please, everybody, give us some feedback on this, and we will bring more of these, and we will bring the lovely Olympian Cheryl Haworth back on to give us some more of her wisdom.
You guys are the best. I feel so good about myself today because y'all are all so sweet. Just thanks for having me. And it would be an honor to be back, sir. I appreciate that.
Well, we love you, Cheryl. Thank you for the time today.
Love you more.
Where can people find you and follow along with all things Cheryl Haworth?
At Haworth Weightlifting. I don't post a ton, but one of those New Year's resolutions, Mom actually uncovered some really old, talking 1996 footage of yours truly lifting weights. So I might be busting some of that out. Stay tuned.
Love it. Mike was kind enough to put in our shared folder here some of your lifts from back in the day, and I've been diving into the rabbit hole here this morning, watching you lift, and was noticing some things, and it's just amazing to watch. You're just a superstar. So it was very cool to see some of that stuff this morning.
Ditto. You guys are the best. You're each individually just some people I really look up to and admire, and it's an honor to call you co-workers, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Cheryl. We'll see you soon enough. And for all of the listeners out there, please be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Mike Cerbus. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your hosts. I'm Dave Durante with my co-host Mike Cerbus. And until next time, thank you all for listening.